Good morning, company.
Good morning.
We open our season with Swan Lake. Done to death, I know, but not like this.
The attainment of artistic achievement has often been associated with suffering. In Darren Aronofsky's 2010 film Black Swan, he explores the story of a woman who pays the ultimate price to achieve the pinnacle of success in her field. Nina Sayers is an ambitious young dancer in a ballet company preparing for its new season. The long-standing prima ballerina is set to retire, and Nina dreams of replacing her and performing the lead in a staging of Swan Lake. Certainly, Nina is capable and experienced. She has an elegance and a fragility that makes her an obvious choice to play the White Swan. But there's also an austerity about her, an insistence upon technical perfection, that prevents her from portraying the unfettered passion required for the Black Swan portion of the role.
If I was only casting the White Swan, it should be yours. But I'm not. Maestro, Odile Scotta, please. Now show me your Black Swan, Nina.
The crux of the story will be her confronting the source of this reserve in her own nature, and the attempt to reconcile a need for artistic perfection with the reckless abandon necessary to achieve it.
Beautiful as always, Nina. Relax.
Throughout the story is a background subplot depicting the fall of Beth, the company's previous star dancer. She embodies the perfection sought by Nina, who fails at first to notice how utterly the work has destroyed the older dancer.
What?
Nina idolizes Beth and takes an opportunity to steal a moment of fantasy stardom in her dressing room, along with some lipstick. It's important to note that she uses this lipstick when preparing to confront Tomas about her audition. There's a conscious attempt both to make herself more sexually appealing and to remind him of his little princess. Having heard rumors of his sexual misconduct with dancers, she hopes to appeal to his lustful nature. This attempt at mercenary advancement and the seduction of her boss goes as well as one would expect of a woman incapable of expressing wantonness even as a stage performance.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? You're not going to try and change my mind?
And Tomas is not such a simple character as Nina believes. He wants only to see that she is capable of exuding the seductive appeal necessary for the part.
All that discipline for what?
Just want to be perfect.
You what?
Want to be perfect. He picked me, Mommy. Did you hear me? For Swan Lake? I'm gonna be the new Swan Queen. Well, I'll be home soon. I just wanted to let you know.
Upon learning that she has been chosen to play the Swan Queen, Nina's first impulse is to report to her mother, which illustrates her unhealthy dependence on the latter's approval. But when she leaves the stall, we discover that someone has written "whore" in lipstick in the mirror. In the absence of anyone else present, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that she wrote it herself, using the lipstick stolen from Beth's dressing room. So her actual first impulse was not to call Mom, but rather to punish herself with feelings of guilt and humiliation. The unspoken thought she perhaps won the part by sullying her chastity is too terrible to face.
What'd you do to get this role? He always said you were such a frigid little girl. What did you do to make him change his mind?
This brings to the fore both tragic elements of Nina's basic character, her fractured persona and her relationship with her mother. The film wastes no time in establishing glimpses of Nina's disconcerting alter ego, a suppressed side to her personality that emerges despite her most careful efforts. This is achieved at times by revealing images and reflections, both seen and unseen by Nina herself, by the emergence of imagined physical injuries and abnormal growths, as well as in the person of Lily, a new rival and embodiment of the Black Swan. It's as though Nina were a vessel in constant conflict with ugly forces vying to break out from within. We come to realize that Nina has suppressed what she considers to be her darker, imperfect impulses, and that these are beginning to take a life and impetus of their own, as she grows into adulthood and can no longer maintain childish innocence. But what motivates this need, and why does she equate chastity with perfection? From the first scene with her mother, we discover that their relationship is colored by the ostensibly shared goal of Nina's success. But there are hints of resentment and doubt on her mother's part.
He promised to feature me more this season.
Well, he certainly should. You've been there long enough. And you're the most dedicated dancer in the company.
And also of an overbearing protectiveness, all of which are clearly a burden to the young woman.
What's that?
What?
There.
It becomes clear that the major obstacle for Nina's self-realization is a pathological mother who simultaneously craves the vicarious satisfaction of her daughter's success and the self-vindication of seeing her fail, thus proving her own life's failures excusable.
Oh, Nina.
It's just a rash.
Oh, rash, what are you
It was
talking
worse
about?
a few days ago. It's fine already.
Oh, you've been scratching yourself again.
No, I have. Mom.
You're not growing this disgusting habit. It's the role, isn't it? It's all this pressure. I knew it'd be too much. I knew it. Ow! Oh, shit. You're all right. You're all right. You'll be all right.
By the standards her mother has taught her, Nina cannot bear to eat even a tiny piece of cake, which would be an indulgence of imperfection. This in turn casts into question what her mother's motives are in offering the cake. Again, we see an undercurrent of a desire to undermine her daughter, even when celebrating her success. This is an often observed but sickening dynamic of a parent who wishes failure upon her own child, and who is possessive to the point where she has kept Nina almost in a cloistered state of perpetual virginity.
I'm just so proud of you.
For Nina, the pursuit of perfection isn't just about technical precision in her dancing. Filtered through the judgments of her mother, it also equates to her physical purity and innocence. Being infantilized her whole life, Nina sees any threat to her chastity as an assault on her ideal of perfection. But she's an adult now, and the obsessive self-delusion necessary to maintain either falsehood becomes less and less viable. As her sexual development is stunted, so too is her potential as a dancer.
What are you doing in there?
And come on, forget about control, Nina. I want to see passion. Come on, reach. More. You're stiff. Stiff like a dead corpse. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. And again.
Tomas recognizes this, but he has hopes for her based on a moment of feistiness when Nina bit him in response to an unwelcome kiss. One suspects it is he who sends Lily as emissary, to involve Nina in forbidden indulgences that might jar her from her staunchly defensive attitude.
I really need to relax.
The two go out on the town, and in defiance of Nina's mother, indulge in drink, drugs, and surrender.
Okay, I thought maybe you and I could use a couple drinks. Head out. So this is Tom and this is Jerry.
You have any idea what time it is?
Mm-hmm. LA.
Where have you been?
To the moon and back.
You've been drinking.
Ding, 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 ding.
Some have attacked this sequence as a gratuitous sex scene but I find that to be a grotesque misunderstanding of what's happening here. Lily is not literally present. What we're seeing is the Black Swan, purely a projection of Nina's desires. This is a masturbatory fantasy enacted by Nina, an acknowledgement at last of her burgeoning sexuality. For much too long, Nina has pursued unforgiving perfection in her art, and coupled this with denial of her sexual nature. This is a much belated sexual awakening, albeit an illusory and ultimately unhealthy one. For once, she refuses her mother's judgment and accepts herself as a woman.
Sweet girl.
But the edifice of her psyche is a delicate palace built of denial, delusion, and obsession. It cannot survive even this tiny crack. The small nudge needed to elevate her technical precision into the realm of artistic brilliance will also shatter that facade. Severing the binds of her mother's influence is a traumatic process that leaves Nina on the verge of mental collapse. By the time she arrives at the theater, she is suffering a near-constant state of delusion, but the threat of Lily's rivalry drives her to demand her chance to shine.
The only person standing in your way is you. It's time to let her go. Lose yourself.
Her turn as the White Swan goes brilliantly as expected, until her disintegrating psyche and self-doubt lead to what feels like a catastrophic error. It's a departure from her ideal of perfection that is too great to dismiss, and the final blow that will shatter her defensive persona and allow a new, aggressive Nina to emerge.
It's my turn.
Her performance as the Black Swan is seductive, dangerous, even predatory. Finally letting go of the qualities that made her so right as the White Swan, she achieves true excellence. But it's at the cost of utter self-annihilation. Her mind is shattered, her body is bleeding. The edifice of faultlessness she'd so carefully constructed her whole life can't be torn down without collateral damage. It's too late to simply let go. She will play the final act and end her performance in a state akin to grace. She will achieve the perfection for which she has always strived, and she will perish in the process.
Let's go get some help. Go get some help.
What did you do? What did you do?
I felt it.
What?
Perfect. It was perfect.
In closing, I want to address a common criticism that was leveled at this film upon its release. Many viewers were quick to discount its merits on the basis that it is derivative. It's a rip-off of Repulsion, they'd say, or it's a rip-off of Perfect Blue, and so on. While the movie certainly owes inspiration of various respects to these and other films, it also owes some to the ballet itself, and to films about the ballet. In short, the movie has so many inspirations that to accuse it of being a copy of any one of them seems to me extremely narrow, when in fact it has only a little in common with each. It stands as its own work, and in my opinion is as successful in artwork as any of its supposed precursors. One point I didn't explore as much as I'd like in this video is the notion of suffering as a necessary part of the artistic process. We witness both Beth and Nina self-destruct in their respective efforts to achieve perfection. It seems that for the gratification of the audience, through Tomas, they must sacrifice all that they are. But did they need to? Is their immolation simply an amusement for Tomas to enjoy, or is great art impossible without suffering? The movie doesn't offer an answer, but it does invite speculation. What do you think? Thanks for listening. Please comment below, like, subscribe, share, and check out the other videos on our channel.